Mm-mm.
Good day, everyone. Whether it's daytime, evening, or night where you are, I'm wishing you all, as well as the Chom's Medi Helpz Foundation, is wishing you all um, blessings and peace on this day. This is our fifth in the series of International Women's Health Month videos. Bear with us for a couple of moments. We will be right with you, but we don't want to lose your attention. It's just that we are actually having a technical glitch right now. So please bear with us and we will be right with you.
This is um. Let's go back to.
Okay, and we're going to go ahead and get started. Tonight we have our very honored and special guest. We have Miss Carolyn Coleman. Blessed and fortunate in the fact that she sits on the Chom's Medi Helpz board. Her clinical nursing experience serves us well as serves well the patients, inclusive of the women and the young girls in that follow Chom's Medi Helpz. It helps us all. Carolyn, I'm going to read you her bio, and she's going to go ahead and take over the conversations from after I read her bio. But once again, we do want to say thank you so much for supporting us and for encouraging us as we do go ahead and continue with our celebration of International Women's Health Month. Give us just two more moments and we'll be actually able to go ahead and start.
Now, Sandra, we can start now.
Okay.
Hello, everyone.
Carolyn,
Are
hold
you
on
ready?
one moment. Carolyn is a resident of Alabama. She is a dedicated healthcare professional with a wealth of experience and expertise. She holds a BS in nursing from Stanford University and an MA in health service administration from Strayer University. She has cultivated a strong foundation in both clinical and administrative aspects of healthcare. She is active in her community. Not only is she active in her community, but she's actually very active on social media as she hosts her own podcast, which she just recently started. I would say maybe 6 months to a year ago. She hosts her own podcast series, as well as she is an author. So she appears on various various stations in reference to her own work as well as others, the work that other authors have put out. Carolyn is a proud member of the Birmingham Black Nurses Association Incorporated. In her commitment to service, she served as the Outreach Committee chairperson for 2 years and held the esteemed position of past president of the Bessemer Public Library Trustee Board, demonstrating her altruistic spirit. Carolyn generously volunteers her time to make a positive impact in her community. And once again, not only in her community, but in a community, worldwide community, because she does serve on the Chom's Medi Helpz Foundation board. And of course, we are out in all communities throughout the states and some international communities. Um, she has over 38 years of experience as a registered nurse, including 18 years as a seasoned case manager and 5 years specifically as an inpatient case manager. Carolyn has navigated diverse healthcare landscapes. Her professional journey includes collaborating with hospital administrators to develop strategic plans for intricate patient cases. She focuses on outcome management, employing best practices, and tirelessly advocating for well-being of patients under her care. Beyond her clinical role, Carolyn extends her knowledge and passion for healthcare by serving as an adjunct instructor. Her multifaceted career underscores her dedication to enhancing patient outcomes, fostering community well-being, and contributing to the education and development of future healthcare professionals. Before I do bring Carolyn in and on for tonight's subject, which is bone density, I do want to ask that those of you that are watching on LinkedIn, please, watching live on LinkedIn, please go ahead and put any notes or comments or questions that you have in reference to tonight's conversation into the comments section. And those of you who are watching via Facebook, go ahead and do the same thing. Enter your comments into the Facebook chat. If we are not able to go to those questions this evening, what we will do is we will bring Carolyn will be able to answer the questions after this call is done. Once again, a gentle reminder: if there is a subject that we went over throughout, whether it's Black History Month or International Women's History Month, and you would like to have the slide because you want to share it with your own community, please reach out to me. I would love to get this information out to you. The reason for us doing this on this scale across the multiple platforms is because we know how important it is for the under-resourced, the vulnerable, and the disability communities to actually have access to this information, which very often is not shared when it should be shared. But we can't sit and blame, and we can't not sit. We can, but it's not going to do us any good. We cannot continue to have conversation after conversation after conversation without actually doing the action and doing the work that's needed to be done so that we can ensure that all patients, regardless as to whether they're man, woman, Black, brown, white, blue, whatever, that all patients have access to, and they might not use it because some patients, I know what they're talking about, but I'm really not interested. But we need to at least give that an option to those patients that want to have access to the best health outcomes. We way past better health outcomes. We're looking at best right now. So those patients that do want to know how do they get the best health outcomes, how do they access it? That's what these programs and that's what these videos are designed to do. So by all means, please outreach me. Say, Sandra, can we please have the link to whatever show or whatever event it is that you need to have so that we can get this information to you. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to let Carolyn Coleman take over this conversation. Carolyn, it's all on you.
Thank you, Sandra. I appreciate you having me on the Charms Medi Health platform. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm talking about bone density, basically the exam, the bone density exam. Sometimes it's called DEXA scan. It measures the amount of calcium and minerals that's in the bone to determine basically if you're likely to have a fracture or a break. It's, especially in and around the hips. Okay. The DEXA scan is really a harmless test. They use low radio waves, but it does need to be read by a radiologist. Okay. It's kind of basic. It's not like you're going through a lot of changes for this bone density. You just need to be relaxed. You need to be relaxed, and you're lying down basically. Now the bone density test gives results from that's known as a T-score, and it determines bone mass, which is osteopenia, and weak or brittle bones, osteoporosis. It does not measure arthritis. Okay, so that's a key factor. The stats tell us in the United States, 18.8% of the females aged 50 or older have osteoporosis. and that's of the femur bone, which is that hip bone that I mentioned earlier. And it also says, or the lumbar spine, your lower back. You hear a lot of people complain about back pain, back discomfort. And I know positioning can do that, the way you sleep, the way you walk, how you lift things. That's why we need to be cognizant of proper body mechanics. Okay. And it says only 4.2% of males have osteoporosis. So it's predominantly in females. And the calcium and the minerals. We have decreased calcium and minerals when it comes to that. Okay, decreased bone density strength can lead to weakened bones naturally. They easily break. So you need a screening to determine where you are, what you need to do, what preventive measures you need to take. Some people are more susceptible than others. The things we need to look at when it comes to bone density: family history of osteoporosis, being diabetic, rheumatoid arthritis, early menopause, lack of physical activity. A lot of times people don't think they need to exercise because they say they hurt, but exercise can decrease your pain. Yes, it starts out hurting. Now, may not be the most comfortable thing, especially if you're not accustomed to doing that. But the more you do some form of exercise, the more strength you will develop. Also, look at your alcohol and tobacco intake. What medications are you taking? Especially the steroids. They can contribute to weakened bone. Postmenopausal white females over the age of 50. And so you need to talk to your healthcare provider. And I know sometimes we get used to having body aches, but that may not be what you need to get used to. You need to get an exam to see just what's going on. Let your healthcare provider know so that they can order the needed tests and or blood work to determine what's really going on with you. And we talked about the bone density does not demonstrate arthritis. You will not see that on that bone density. Some people with arthritis may need a bone density test, especially if they've been on steroids, to see the effect of the bones, because it can make your bones brittle. Now, when it comes to having your DEXA scan, it's relatively safe. And like I said earlier, it's low dose radiation during the test. The beams go from the top of your body through the base of your body. There are very little contraindications for having the bone density or the DEXA scan. Or like I say, a radiologist reads it. But anytime you're doing anything with x-rays, you need to let your healthcare provider or whoever it is performing the exam know if you think you're pregnant or if you are pregnant, because the radiation can potentially harm the fetus. And if you've had any exams prior within the last 2 weeks, you need to let your healthcare provider or the person performing the exam know, especially if those exams required you to have some type of contrast, whether it's IV contrast or some barium, because that can alter your test results. And you may have to wait about 2 or 3 weeks before you have that bone density. Because if we're going to have these exams, we want to be in the best conditions to do that. And when I'm talking about conditions, you want to make sure that if they tell you not to eat, now with the bone density, they're not going to usually tell you that. If they tell you not to eat, don't eat, don't drink, just be mindful that you are having this exam and you want to get the best results the first time. Because if the results aren't or skewed or inconclusive, then it means you have to do it all over again. Even though it's quick and easy, nobody really wants to repeat something they've already had done. So when you're going to have your x-rays, when it comes to the bone density, just wear something comfortable. They may put you in a gown, they may not. But one thing for sure, wear something loose and comfortable, and avoid having anything metal, such as a metal zipper, belts, or any type of jewelry on. 9 times out of 10, you just think of it as an x-ray. Those things you just don't need on you at that point in time. And like I said, you'll be lying flat, and sometimes they'll put your legs up on a padded box, basically, and your back will be flat against a comfortable surface, and they're just going to scan you. Um, you will be able to lie still, because it's kind of, like I say, it doesn't take no more than about 10 or 30 minutes. And I think most of that is positioning, making sure that you're in the correct position. After the test, very few side effects. You can resume your normal activity. Your healthcare provider may do some lab work to test your calcium and your vitamin D levels. I just don't think you can go to the doctor and not get blood work. I just think that's a prerequisite for going to the physician. Blood work will have to be done. The radiologist will do the interpretation, and they will call you when the results are back. I know a lot of people talk about the patient portal. I personally don't utilize the portal. I had to have an x-ray earlier this week, and my doc called me today with the results. So that's what I like. And I would like to maintain that. I don't know how far I can get without using the portal, but because I like to hear what she has to say. If there are any questions, I like to be able to ask them at that point in time. Now, getting back to the bone density, the T-scores and the Z-scores are what they're looking for. Z as in zebra. And the T-scores compare your bone density to a normal or younger individual. Your Z-scores compare your bone health to a person that's more in your age limit. The results you're looking for, normal bone density is basically -1 and above. Low bone density, osteopenia, is between -1 to -2.4. Osteoporosis, -2.5 or lower. So your physician will help you with those scores and tell you what you need to do. But if you're normal, that's wonderful. They'll tell you when you need to resume, or when you need to have a follow-up exam as well. Now, when it comes to bone density, we talked about calcium and mineral enriched foods. So some examples of calcium enriched foods: kale, yogurt, broccoli, canned seafood, hard cheeses such as Parmesan or Romano, turnip greens, cottage cheese, oranges, collard greens, sesame seeds, almonds, ice cream, tofu, rhubarbs, figs, or black beans. Now, out of that small list, I'm sure there's something in there that you enjoy the most. Now, when it comes to vitamin D rich foods, fresh fish, cod liver oil, eggs, caviar, mushrooms, fortified milk, fortified orange juice, yogurt, tofu, beef or calf liver, fortified cereals. Now, I know everyone does not eat those, and these are just samples, but find the one that is more pleasing to you. Me, I'm not a liver girl. I'm not a liver girl. I'll probably take a capsule of cod liver oil on a daily basis. I love fish. I love mushrooms. So find something that you like Make sure that some of the things are fortified. And that just gets down to reading labels. And I think we all need to be accustomed or start reading labels now. The more you read them, the more you'll know what's for you, what's not. And it's not just coming when it comes to calcium or vitamin D, it comes to your sodium intake as well. A lot of people don't need a lot of potassium. So those are the things you want to avoid. Now, when it comes to eating disorders in girls, when it comes to bone density, an eating disorder speeds up your natural process in two ways: malnutrition and stress. When you're not eating enough, your body stops producing some types of hormones. You have low estrogen, which is particularly important in children and adolescents who are still growing. It leads to decreased bone production and increased bone absorption. So we need to ensure that the children are eating properly and eating what's more nutritious to them. Stress, you can put yourself in a state of starvation when you're stressful, because just think your nerves, you don't feel like eating, you don't want to eat, you feel full. The brain can be a trigger that your body's alert, a red alert that your body is in some form of elevated levels of cortisol, and it's pumped into your adrenal glands and also accelerates bone absorption. So those are things we want to try to avoid. And I know a lot of kids are in stressful situations that they don't like to talk about. And then by the time we realize it, they're basically in that state of reabsorption. So we want to be mindful, be watchful. Chicken fingers don't always get it. Try to ensure that the children are eating from the food groups. Now, osteoporosis sets in when bone is absorbed quicker than new bone is being created. So I'm going to say that again so it makes sense. Osteoporosis sets in when bone is being absorbed quicker than new bone is being created. And that comes to our children. So they're at more of a risk for developing osteoporosis. And there is a condition known as idiopathic juvenile osteoporosis. The first sign is often fractures. Some people say, I just have weak bone. They easily fracture. Well, we probably need to see why they easily fracture. It can lead to a person having a limp, back pain, hip, knee pain. And it starts around puberty, especially for boys and girls who should otherwise be healthy. Now, I'm going to close at this point with this quote. The link between young girls, eating disorders, and osteoporosis is a ticking time bomb, meaning we need to be mindful of what the children are eating. We want them to be healthy. We want them to be as healthy as they can be. We want to make sure that they're eating healthy and that they're exercising appropriately. And I know we're in this, I hate to call it a phase, but we're in this portion where video games and phones are the entertainment of our children. So that means they don't get up like we used to. They don't get out and play like we used to. They don't get exposed to the sun and get that good vitamin D like we used to. So we need to encourage our children to become more active, be outside. I mean, they don't have to stay out there all day, but they need to be outside. We need to go walk. I see some families walking in my neighborhood, and it is families. It's husbands, wives, the children walking in the neighborhood, especially in the spring, summer, and early fall. They're getting good doses of vitamin D. Um, so we need to make sure that they're getting their exercise, they're eating properly, um, and they're getting up, they're moving. They need to be moving. And now, Sandra, that's what I have right now. Have any questions come up?
No, I'm not seeing any questions, but I do have some questions on my own that I actually want to ask you about. And a lot of these questions I'm asking you about, they seem to be signs and symptoms that you get in all disease conditions, or a huge part of disease conditions. So I just want to know how, and as far as this Women's History Month, right? We as women often take the lead in making sure our family and our friends are, well, they're okay, they're feeling well, and if they need help, then we should be, or that we help them, right? A lot of times, but sometimes we don't know what to do because we don't know what signs or symptoms, or if this is just something, maybe they're just having a bad day. So let's go over some of the symptoms that are mentioned when it comes down to bone density, so that we women, we know what to look for. We know what to look for in ourselves. We know what to look for when our kids seem to be lethargic, especially our young girls seem to be lethargic and they're not moving around. They don't have any energy, things like that. Men are men, right? We take care of our husbands, our sons, our male figures. We take care of them a lot of times because unfortunately some of them don't want to take care of themselves without us women fussing at them, or saying, look, we care, we just want to know what's going on, could you please go to the doctor? So sometimes it helps for us to have some added ammunition to add to. You need to go to the doctor because you know that they said that this and this could be a sign of whatever health condition it is that it's a sign of. So let's just briefly go over some of the signs and symptoms that women should be aware of, not only for themselves but for their loved ones. So should they present with these symptoms, they'll know, okay, well, yeah, we need to go check this out. One of the signs that is often brought up when we're talking about osteoporosis, or AKA bone density, is brittle fingernails, right? So a person has really brittle fingernails. So in your clinical nursing experience, what do you know? What will a brittle fingernail look like versus a fingernail that just you hit or you damaged or something? What would that brittle fingernail look like?
I mean, from what I've seen, and I haven't really researched it, it just, they'll tell you, my fingernails just break. They just break. And they just easily break. I can be doing something and I can feel them crack. And the thing is, they never tell a healthcare provider about these things. So you can't do anything about what you don't know.
Right.
Okay. So while they're there in the hospital, sure, we're going to do some lab work, and we're going to look at your blood work. We're going to look at the results, because a low calcium can represent more than just um, one thing. Okay. And then a high calcium can represent more than one thing. So you have to pull the entire picture together before the physician can make a definitive diagnosis.
And so with brittle fingernails, one should expect that if their nails are breaking, like if they're hitting something and their nails are breaking, or they're looking at their nails and their nails, or say, your nail is supposed to be pink underneath, but say you're looking at it and it's yellow and it's staying yellow all the time. Is that a sign of a brittle fingernail, or is that a sign that there's something going on and you definitely need to see the doctor or talk to
Well,
someone?
it depends, because you have something, you have a diagnosis such as Raynaud's, and
Mm-hmm.
women, their hands stay cold all the time. Some of
Mm-hmm.
times they wear gloves. They wear gloves. frequently. Some of them tell me they wear their gloves to bed, but they're still hesitant to let you know that they have certain conditions,
Right.
and you can't do much because they won't tell you. Even on your physical exam, when you're doing your assessment, and they won't say, you'll see them rubbing their hands, and you'll be like, are you okay? Do you have problems with your hand? Oh, no, not really. They just kind of stay cold, but just staying cold is not in and of itself a diagnosis. So that's why it needs to be um, additional testing done.
Okay, and then we have one that we very often, all of us overlook this, and all of us shouldn't overlook this. And the reason why we shouldn't overlook it, and the reason why we should be paying close attention to it, is because our teeth tell us a lot about our history. Your dentist, everyone that's looking at this should be making sure that they make regular routine visit every 6 months. And if your teeth are hurting, you need to be in there before 6 months. But at least every 6 months, you
At
need to be
least.
seeing a dentist. A
I agree.
dentist, a lot of times, will actually catch a disease before it actually appears. So you really need to be including a dentist in your overall health care. And for those of us that are diabetic, as well as there's a number of other medical conditions that I'm not sure of right offhand, but if someone was to call me, I could easily find the information out. But the reason why now, if you have certain medical conditions there and you go to see a dentist, they're paid for under your medical benefits that you have at work or that you have through your Medicaid, Medicare plans, is because the powers that be have now recognized. I mean, they should have recognized it a long time ago, but they now realize that a lot of our dental problems are due to our medical conditions. Therefore, it's extremely important. So when you go to the dentist a lot of times and they submit your dental bills, if you have certain conditions, you need to be saying, can you please submit this under my medical plan because of the condition that I already have? So one of the things about osteoporosis and bone density is that outlined in the 8 symptoms and signs that people should be watching for that have bone density or have osteoporosis is receding gums. Your dentist will be able to tell you whether your gums are receding. They'll be able to start you on a path that you need to be on. A lot of times they're actually able to tell you. I know my dentist did. I was sick once. I had pneumonia and I didn't know I had pneumonia. But in him doing my x-rays and looking at my x-rays and doing my routine, he was like, you need to go to the doctor because something's wrong. And I was like,
Hmm.
what's wrong? He's like, they'll tell you when you get there, but you need to actually see a medical doctor. So when I left his office, I went home and went to bed. Needless to say, I woke up the next day and I had to be rushed to the hospital because I had pneumonia. I mean, he was actually able to pick up on there's something in your system that shouldn't be there. You need to actually go see a doctor and get some help. But to say that is to also say that receding gums are a condition that you have when you have osteoporosis or, AKA bone density. So please make sure that you're keeping your dental appointments, making sure that they're looking at your teeth at least once every 6 months. And once again, please make sure that if you have, I know diabetes is one, and there's a couple of other medical conditions that are, when you go to the dentist now, are paid under your medical plan and not your dental plan. That's just how important it is for you to be able to see your dentist or to keep your dental appointments. And here's another one, Carolyn, for the
Miss
symptom.
Sandra, let me can
Mm-hmm.
we going back to the dentist, let's just kind
Mm-hmm.
of pick trail back to that. I have had patients who went to the dentist and he picked up on some abnormalities. He wouldn't give them a diagnosis, but he told them they needed to see an oncologist as soon as possible. And this was in like a 14-year-old girl. So the dental appointments are important because it was a routine dental appointment she went to. She was not having any issues, but she ended up having cancer, needing chemo and radiation. And she was a healthy, very active teenager. She played basketball. She did that. So you're more than correct in saying your dentist can pick up some things. You definitely don't have to be diabetic, but they can pick up. And this was what we call an incidental finding because that's not what he was looking for. She was going in there to get a teeth clean. So we do need to be cognizant of keeping these appointments. Yes, it doesn't seem like much, but if she had not gone to the dentist, her cancer would have gone undetected. Okay? So we do need to be very careful and we need to be cognizant of our health and our children's health. So naturally the parents were devastated, at this news because you have this high energy teenager with no signs of any health issues. And the next week, you are taking her to have chemo and radiation. Okay.
Yeah, and unfortunately, too many people say, I have a 6 month appointment. I'll just make an appointment now down the line. Well, down the line, you really can't do. So it's once again, I just can't stress the importance enough because I know many people actually do overlook going to the dentist because they think it's not important. When in actuality, it's very, very, very important for you to see your dentist. The next one that I want to talk about briefly is your weak grip. Like, you can't open anything. You don't have any strength. And this is for your osteoporosis and your bone density in your hands. You can't, you want to be able to turn the top and you're like, oh, I used to be able to turn this top. And gradually you see that you're not able to open tops and you're not able to open certain things that you used to be able to open. Well, that's a symptom of bone density. And that doesn't mean that's what you have, but you at least need to go get it checked out, right? So with the hand grip, is
Well,
there that?
it's funny you should say that and bring that up, Sandra. 3 weeks ago, I was opening a jar of salsa, and it was very tough. And I have a good grip. I usually don't need to do anything but just pop it and let's go. Well, my thumb has been aching me. Started 2 days afterwards, and so when I went to the doc, I was telling her about it. She did the X-ray, and that's when she called me back today. She said there's no signs of torn ligaments, no signs of a fracture. We think it's arthritis. Well, this hand has not been bothering me until I went to open up that salsa. So things can happen. So she has recommended a brace for me. So she told me I could get it off Amazon. So I ordered it today because it has been very painful. It has been very painful. So we'll see where that goes. But the simplest of things, the freak accidents, the incidental findings, we all need to pay attention to. We definitely do.
Yeah, and it's really, really important that we keep that in mind. Now, I do know earlier, do you know, like statistically speaking, here in the United States, do you know about how many people in the United States are known to have bone density or osteoporosis?
I think it said 18.8% of the women in the United States and about 4% of the men.
And that's just in the United States.
That's just in the United States.
Right. So, I mean, on a global level, we as women everywhere, right? This is International History. This is International Women's History Month. This is history that we need to know in order to be able to guide us to continue to take care of not only ourselves, but also of our family members. Also, if we know someone that say we're going to church with or school with or anything, and they start mentioning these signs and symptoms, it's a good time to bring up, hey, you have you been checked for bone density? And unfortunately, what happens so often, and I know you brought this up a little earlier, is the fact that our young girls who will one day be women, right, and who will be adulting through life, if they're not eating the correct foods now, like the foods with the vitamins, they're just all the time eating junk food and snacking on wasteless food. As they continue to grow and their bodies continue to build up, well, if their bodies are being built on a weak frame, imagine if you can, moms that have daughters or have nieces, and they're just dumping junk in their system because that's all they have available to them. Just close your eyes for like 2 minutes and imagine them growing up, and imagine them being out in the world adulting and being told that their bone structure is weak, or trying
Mhm.
to do an event, a high school or a college event, or even later in life trying to do something and they can't do it because, well, their bone structure is messed up, their frame and their bones are weak. And it all starts when we're young. It really all starts when we're young and we continue to grow. And we as women, I mean, we go through some stuff, right? I mean, we go through some stuff. We're young and we're out, we're having fun and we're doing life, right? Then we get older, we start picking up, we start menstruating. We start with our menstrual system, and so that takes a toll on our bodies. And then we go through life and we have menopause, we have postmenopausal period, and that takes a toll on our lives, right? But if we start young and we start raising our young girls up to, this is important. I know you want to eat, chicken fingers all the time, but chicken fingers, like you said earlier, Carolyn, it doesn't do your body good. Like, show them some pictures, show some. Let's start showing our young girls some pictures of some older people that actually have bone density, that actually, or even having them talk to someone that's actually been diagnosed with osteo, or osteopenics, or any of the bone
I
density,
agree.
osteoporosis.
Hmm.
Let's show them, like,
Well,
we take,
mhm.
look, Carolyn, we take them to STEM, right? And we take them to STEAM classes. Let's take them to some classes that show them, right, what happens when you don't do what you're supposed to do. You could take road A, right? Open up door A, open up door B, open up door C, right? Let's see what's behind them all. And let's see how we all got to the points that we are. So you were going to say something. Go ahead, Carolyn.
Well, kids are very observant. They may not act like they are, but they don't let too much go unnoticed. They may not say anything at that point in time, but if you're around an aunt or a grandmother or a neighbor and they are walking straight 1 second, and when they stop and they slowly hunch over, those are signs of osteoporosis or osteopenia or arthritis. So it's not far from us to know these things. It's just paying attention. It's just paying attention. And if you don't want to be that person that's like auntie, that can't walk without her cane, that's always leaning over, she can't help it, her body just, her spine just naturally curls over. So you need to take some tips, and you've said it so many times in the past. No, children could not be around adults when they were having conversation, but you don't have to be in the room with an adult having a conversation or listening to their conversation to visualize them. These kids these days are really smart. I mean,
Right.
let's give them credit. They're very smart. They do a lot. They know what they want to know, but we also need to continue to encourage them. Your health is your wealth. And like our parents used to always tell us, or relatives or neighbors, You ain't gonna be young all your life. You ain't gonna be young all your life. You better take care of yourself while you can. And we just let that whoosh go over our heads like, yes, ma'am. But we did what we did. We still did what we did, but we still played. We still were out in the sun. We were still moving our bodies. And the children, the very rare child that could not, for health reasons that they were born with, correct? But
Correct.
they still wanted to play and they still wanted to be around children. So we still have to encourage children. And there was not a whole lot of snacking going on. When I was growing up, it was real food. Yeah, we played. We went to the local store. We got what we wanted to eat, and we came on back. But you knew you were going to eat a nutritious meal, and we knew nothing about nutrition. All we know is that we needed to eat some greens and some beans. We needed to eat some real food, as they say. You're not going to eat that junk food. You're not going to have that sandwich.
Right.
That conversation was not had. This was your choices, and that's what you did. And we are the better for it, correct?
Correct. That is very, very true. So
You know,
as
so
we
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, as we get ready to close out for the evening, what I do want to ask you is this. I want you to put on that big, pretty smile of yours, right? The one that has blessed everyone that knows you. It's infectious when we talk to you and we see you smiling. It makes us all smile because it makes us know that everything is going to be okay.
Absolutely.
We get all of us get, we've made it in this world on the back of smiles, just like what Carolyn has on her face, on the back of smiles of our grandmothers, of our mothers, of our aunties, all the women in this world who, when they smile, we smile, right? Because we get it, right? We know and we understand, and we do get it. The importance of us making sure that everything is okay. We always put ourselves second, and we shouldn't put ourselves second, but we smile. We look at that smile and be like, okay, we're okay because they're smiling, right? But we tend to take and put ourselves in that second class
We
position.
do. Yeah.
We shouldn't. We need to know what it is to know, what we should know, what we should look out for. We need to be looking for instruction. We need to be looking for education. Why? Because we as women, we've been gaslighted. Plenty of us go to the doctor and they're told you'll get over it. It's just something. And you go out the door and you go home and you are sicker than what you were when you went in there. And you're like, I don't know where to go get help. I don't know, how to do this. I'm struggling. I'm just really, really lost, when we shouldn't be lost. So let's continue to take this month to uplift every woman that we know, to give them that smile like Carolyn has. Let them know that that smile comes from within. And when it comes from within, it really, really means something. Help them to understand that we need them, all of us. We sisters, we need all our sisters to be here on this earth. Our husbands, our sons, the world wouldn't be a world without us women, right? So, you might be saying, well, Sandra's just rambling now because this was about bone density. So what is she talking about? And I'll be really honest with you, and I'll tell you this. This is what I'm talking about. Women, we don't know about bone density. We have no idea what bone density is. It's not a common medical condition that you can go in and say, I think I got bone loss. You don't know when your bones are lost unless it's like something that's really, really outright. You don't know. So you go to your doctor without having the signs and the symptoms and saying, well, I need to have that, whatever that test is you do for bone loss, that's what I need. Without you knowing the name of it, it's a DEXA scan. Without you knowing what are some of the signs and symptoms that possibly could mean that you have bone density, what are you going to do? Unless you know that as a young girls can have bone density just like older women.
Absolutely.
Men can have bone density just like women, right? We women, for the most part, have a child in our lives that we either know or that live with us, or we have a man in our lives that we either know or either live with us. that they depend on us for them to, when they're sick or when they're not feeling well, they depend on us to tell them,
It
to
does.
give them some
It does.
insight on what might be happening. But if you as a woman don't know and don't take the time to learn or understand what's out here, what good are you? I mean, really, I'm being dead honest. What good are you, right? So that's what it has to do with bone density. We need to know these things that many doctors, some doctors will be honest with us and tell us. Some doctors won't be honest with us, and some doctors will say, "Now, I had a doctor maybe about 5 years ago. He's retired since then, but he will always tell me, 'You're a woman, and so pretty soon I'm going to start testing you for bone density more often than I test you now.' He would test me once a year. He said, because you're a woman, you very susceptible to having, and you diabetic, so you're very susceptible to actually having bone density in the future. I'm just going to keep my eye on it." So you can ask them, or sometimes you'll have doctors that care and they know, and they can look at look at you and look at your background, and they'll know when these things are going to happen. But you yourself, you need to know. It's called self advocacy. You need to know so that you can advocate for these things yourself. So I'm going to get off my soapbox, and I'm going to let Ms. Carolyn close us out with 3 important tips that she wants everyone watching, whether you're watching this live or whether you're going to look at it at a later date or later time. She wants you to remember, as you're considering things that are happening to you, what might be tied to bone density and what might just be, something that just happened, right? So we're going to have her close us out with 3 very important tips.
Um, well, one of the most important tips is Sandra Washington, because she said what needed to be said about we as women. We are leaders, yes, we have men, male figures in our lives, be it husbands, boyfriends, our children, our boys. Um, we are leaders. People watch us. A lot of people don't like to hear what you have to say, but it needs to be said. And as long as you're saying it in love, you can get your point across. Everyone is different. Some people, it takes repeating things over and over again. And the same with us, because we get complacent. But as long as we can lead, as long as we can support, as long as we can teach, let us do those things, because our families depend on us. We depend on us. We depend on us. We need to be here. We need to be available, and we need to be an example. Exercise can be kind of contagious, so to speak. Group activity is great. Um, Wake up with a purpose that you're going to be better today than you were yesterday, or I'm going to take better care of myself today than I did yesterday. Those are things that we need to think about, act on, and we need to make sure that we're caring for ourselves first, because if we don't care for ourselves, who no one's going to really listen to us. Well, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. So be that example. Be that example where people can pick up on it. It's about your health, and it's about other people's health. So let's just be that example. So I think that was about 3 or 4.
Okay. And with that being said, I also, before we close out, I also want to bring up a very important PSA, I want to call it, and that's this. Please check with your physicians in reference to whatever medications you are on,
Correct.
to ask them if one of the side effects that you or anyone you love is tied to bone loss. If it is, please have that communication, have that discussion with them. Like, okay, well, we got to take this, and you saying it's a possibility that we can lose bone loss behind it. How do I proactively take care of this and make sure that, it's minimized, right? Some medications we have to take, but and all medications have a side effect. Please have that
Absolutely.
conversation with
Hmm.
your doctors in reference to Is this a possibility that I could lose bone loss from taking this medicine, or that my bones could be weakened from taking this medicine? If it is, what's the other, not so much what's the other option, because sometimes with medications, there's really not another option, but what can we do to actually make sure that we can minimize the amount of bone that is lost, right? Because once a bone is lost and once you go through that, fracture and that healing and all, it really never actually grows back fully. So you need to be paying attention, and you need to ask that question, an open line of communication with your doctor in reference to any medication that you're on is actually needed for every, for every health disease condition, but specifically for bone loss. Because as Carolyn stated earlier, it's actually, Carolyn, what medication was that you stated that
It's the steroids. The
the
steroids.
the steroid, right?
Very
So
steroid.
yeah. So if you're on steroids or any classification of a steroid, you need to be asking, what can we do to make sure that we minimize this bone loss? So with that being said, I wish everyone a good day, a good evening, a good morning, and thank you all so very, very much for tuning in tonight. We will have another room, another event tomorrow, with Bringing Humanity Together, with a representative from Bringing Humanity Together. So please stay tuned at 6 p.m. tomorrow, which is March 14th. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.